Let's talk AFL. Alex Caiafa has been our contributor from day one, and he joins us once again in the studio. Alex, welcome.
Thanks, George.
Bad news. Let's start with that and get it out of the way first. The AFL has had to spend an awful lot of money to keep the business going. How much did they lose last year through the COVID sensation?
So through the COVID-ravaged season, the AFL recorded a $22.8 million loss, which in terms of how it could have gone, it's actually almost a best case scenario. There were plenty of fears that that number could have been in the 100 millions, especially with the cancellation after round one and all that time wasted. The AFL had to even forecast $60 million of their own money to keep the season afloat, which is huge. So
they've spent the 60, they've lost 20 plus.
Yeah.
Wow.
So they've lost a fair bit of money from
they
this
really
season.
can't afford a second season like that, can they?
Yeah, no, they really can't. They're going to be hoping that fans, especially here in Victoria, can get down to games, and even if it's 50% capacity.
Alex, you just touched on something really important. What happens if there's another lockdown? We've already seen 3 now in Victoria. What's to say there's not another one in SA, WA, Queensland, and God forbid, New South Wales, which has managed, you know, despite what the rest of the country's been doing, they've been pretty open and they've allowed a lot of the sporting contests to continue. Yeah. If there's another one like that, what happens to the almost, we're about to start with, 3-4 weeks away from the brand new AFL 2021 season. My goodness.
Yeah, just under a month now till the season starts, and if there's another lockdown in any state, let alone Victoria, could be pretty astronomical again.
Okay, so costs are very, very much in the headspace of the AFL hierarchy. Yeah. Gil McLachlan doesn't want to throw out any more money; he wants to receive it. So they'll be needing the MCG and the other venues to see as many fans as they can return. Yeah. Yeah. Let's keep our fingers crossed. One thing we can't do though is prevent injuries, and already season is seeing a number of big men go down. What have you heard?
Yeah, so we've already had the couple of big men from Melbourne down, which was their 2 big forwards in Ben Brown and
Wiedemann, which we talked
about. And now we've got St Kilda, star ruckman Rowan Marshall. He's gone down with a stress-related injury, and he's going to miss the start of the season, which is huge for the Saints because he was one of the top ruckmen in the AFL last year.
And the other thing we should talk about too, the coaching team at each and every one of these clubs would be building their game around the key players they have and the stars. So exactly. You've got to rethink everything.
Exactly, especially for ruckmen. Ruckmen are such an important part of the game still, even though it's we like to call it a midfielder's game now these days, but the ruckmen are still so important. And then we've had another ruckman go down in Braden at GWS with new recruit Braden Bruce. He's had to get a shoulder reconstruction, so he's going to set to miss the next 5 months, which is massive for them too. Now they picked up Bruce as to be their number 1 ruckman, so they wouldn't have to use Mumford as much. What it looks like Mumford's going to be thrown in again.
Isn't it amazing? We always talk about opportunity and injuries and how they affect sides, and for players who change clubs. People talk about new scenery, a fresh start. Well, there is a story that we can just label on, or stick that label on. That's Majak Daw. He's gone from North, trialled I think at a couple of other clubs. Suddenly, he may well be the first choice at the Demons.
So Majak Daw was let go by North Melbourne at the end of last season. He signed a deal with North Heidelberg in just the local leagues, and got the call up from Melbourne because they've been ravaged with injuries with their 2 big key forwards, and they don't have many stocks down there too. So they've called upon Majak Daw for a few training sessions, and if all goes well, we'll see Majak Daw in a Melbourne uniform.
That'd be some story. Yeah. If he can, from where he was a couple of years ago. Whether he'd play the game again, to be actually, be this stopgap or this young man who steps in the breach and holds the fort for the Demons until the others come on board. That would be quite some story. Yeah. Now, you touched on earlier that the midfielders are the modern game. They're the drivers of the game. St Kilda have lost a midfielder even before the season starts. How would they be feeling with Zach Jones now not being available.
Yeah, so Zach Jones is another one of those guys from St Kilda who, you know, is suffering from a hamstring injury. He's in serious doubt for round 1 as well. So that's already Rowan Marshall. They're already down their captain, Jaren Geary, because of his leg injury.
Man. Oh.
And now with Zach Jones, they're falling at the Saints at the moment, which isn't good. But
and you know, we should talk about it. Hamstrings normally about a month before they get back on the pitch.
Yeah.
Is that reasonable and fair?
It is reasonable.
So that's 2 or 3 games.
It is, and depending on the severity as well, we don't know if it's even worse than just a minor one.
Could be a James Hurd hammy, which means operation.
Could be 6 weeks or longer.
Don't say that.
Yeah.
There is another young man at the Bombers. His name is Michael Hurley, who a couple of years ago was just about one of the stars holding the Bombers together during a really couple of controversial years. Yeah. He's been in the wars with his health. What's going on?
He has. He's had a couple of hip infections. Well, he's had one hip infection, but it's just been reoccurring, and they just haven't seemed to be fixed. Is
it a scraping? Is it a medical thing that's come back the wrong way?
We're not totally sure, but he's gone into hospital twice in a matter of a week, and you know, thankfully he's been discharged now, which is great for him. But there's no timetable on a return for him, so you know, fingers crossed. It's the best for him because, you know, any sort of infection.
When he's fit, he's an absolute star.
He is.
And for the Bombers, he's been a shining light, and they need all their stars to be aligned, as they say.
Yeah,
as most of the clubs do.
He's one of their key men, especially down back where they've had issues. So.
Now, a new recruit in inverted commas at the Bulldogs, Adam Treloar. Is he likely to face Collingwood first week up?
Yes, he is. Good news, Dogs fans. He will likely be available for round 1 against his old team. He's missed the first couple of intra-club games, but with some tightness in his muscles. But I think that's just a safety precaution thing. They're getting him ready to go for the big one in round 1.
Wow, Treloar up against Collingwood. Well, it won't be 1 against the 20, but you know the feeling. It'll be very interesting. And some of the chatter on the pitch would be on the field would be interesting too.
Yeah.
Just before we let you go, I understand that the coaching staff at St Kilda have said we can go with captain and vice captain. Yeah.
Yeah.
Who have they chosen?
They've got shared responsibilities this year. So they've normally had the one captain in Jaren Geary, but now they've introduced Jack Steele, which is really interesting because Jack Steele wasn't even a part of the leadership group at all last season.
So he's
come out of nowhere and has been named pretty much captain.
Must have made an impression.
He really has though, because he was one of the breakout stars from last year for the Saints and in the entire AFL. He's come leaps and bounds from when he was first drafted, and he's only going from strength to strength. So it's a great call by the Saints. I feel that he's a good leader. He's one of the young guns, and it's deserved.
Excellent stuff. Alex Caiafa giving us the lowdown and keeping us up to date with what's happening in the world of the AFL.